one of your songs that really made a great impact for the kingdom of God is Through My Father's Eyes. And that song made an impact in my life as well. Like, for me, growing up, because of a lot of things that I went through, it really hit me in my identity, low self-esteem. And I used to find it so hard to talk to people. Today I'm just speaking because I'm like a non-stop radio box. But back in the day, if you want to push me to speak, I'm like, no, I don't know what to say. I'm so scared and so reserved and so shy. And I'm a full-fledged introvert. So, but the
Same
truth to
here.
be told, huh?
Me too.
Actually, the introverts are the ones who are very good in these things.
Yeah.
So, growing up in that kind of a fashion, it really hit me on my identity as well. And your song, Through My Father's Eyes, was one of the songs that really made an impact in my life. And back in the day, whenever I used to preach on any topic related to that, I used to share your song and share it around in my university and all of that. So I was really blessed by that song. And I'm sure anybody I talk to and say, I'm going to do this session with Ollie Starr, they were like, oh, the songwriter of Through My Father's Eyes. So that song is the one that's made a huge impact. So I came to know from some of the interviews that I went through about you. You shared that this song came from a place where you yourself went through something like an identity crisis, where you found it difficult to accept yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And today, needless to say, when you look at all the ideal aspects that are set by society or movies or advertisements, this is what is ideal, this is what is normal. And you look at your imperfections and you look at where you are and you find it so hard to accept yourself. So based on your journey, can you share how did you learn to accept yourself in those moments, and how did the song come out through those moments?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say that the most influential moment for me in that process. So for those of you who don't know, I struggled with eating disorder, and so I struggled, and that was a result of all that you just shared: the media, just negative thinking about myself, low self-esteem. And I just reached a breaking point one day where I was like, I can't do this anymore, God. If I live this way, I'm not going to live very long. And in that moment, I felt like what God was teaching me was to come back to who He said He was. Like He is my healer. And so I had to choose to believe or not. Like, do I believe that God is truly the healer? Like, can He heal me? And I found that even though I had grown up in a Christian home and I knew the names of God, like I wasn't truly believing that. And so I had to, it was like a moment where I say it's like where the rubber met the road for me. I had to choose, do I actually believe this or not? And so I chose to say yes to God and say, I trust and believe that this is who you are. And so I went on a year-long journey of giving up something in my life that meant a lot to me and praying for an entire year every time I wanted that, and as like a act of faith and trust that God could take me out of this season that I was in. And about 2/3 of the way through that year of prayer, I started noticing a shift in my heart and just this realization that like, I think God's healing me. And it wasn't like an overnight thing, but it was like a slow progression towards just healthier thinking. And the moment that I was mentioning earlier that really made that shift was when I started to realize that God made me good. He made me beautiful. And like, He doesn't make things on accident. He doesn't make things unintentionally. And so what the world was telling me on one hand is that I'm not good enough. But what God is saying is, I've made you good. And my definition of beauty is the definition that you need to live your life under, not under the definition of beauty that the world is telling you. And so that's my encouragement, is that if you find yourself with low self-esteem, ask yourself, why? Is it because somebody's told you that you're too heavy, or that your hair is your hair's not the way it should be, or you're too short, or you're too tall, or whatever, you name it. Like, what's causing you that low self-esteem? And then bringing it to God and saying, what do you say about me? Who do you say that I am? And then putting those things on your wall at home and as reminders, like, you made me beautiful, you made me good. And and I have purpose, and I'm needed in this world. And those types of affirmations, I think, are really important and helpful. Another thing that just from a practical standpoint is recognizing what things in your life cause you to fall into sin. So for me, it was like a mirror was really dangerous for me because I found myself standing in front of a mirror for way too long in the morning trying to figure out if I was pretty or not, like stupid things like that. So for a long time, I had to have no mirrors in my bedroom or in my house, like the full length body mirrors. I would even do my hair and makeup without looking in the mirror in the mornings. It sounds crazy, but it's like I had to cut those things out of my life to reorient my mind as far as what is beauty and how will I view myself according to that. Another thing would be like scales. I couldn't have scales in my house because I was too crazy about how much I weighed every morning. Like those types of things. Like you got to know what causes you to fall so you can cut it out of your life. The verse where Jesus he's talking about adultery, but he's saying like, if an eye causes you to sin, gouge it out, like obviously that's not the specific context that he's talking about at the time, but I think it really sheds a light on how serious we need to take things that cause us to fall into sin. And like hands down, I recommend this over and over again. That process is what helped me overcome that. So it's a battle, but God has definitely done a huge restoration work in my life. And I'm very passionate that people know that they're just because they feel stuck doesn't mean they are stuck. There is a way out, and it's just taking one step at a time.
So after this many years, do you still struggle with it, or is it a thing in the past for you?
Yeah, it's a thing in the past mostly. I would say like 99% in the past. I only leave that 1% because I'm a human. And so I can't say that I'm perfect or got it all together. There are days where I'm like, oh, I wish I looked like this or that. But I still have to be proactive at picking out those weeds, so they don't turn into full-blown root systems in my life. So it's like you can't just ignore it. You have to be attentive to it. But thankfully now I've got some boundaries. Like my husband knows all about it, so he's always making sure, like, are you thinking about that right? But it's not as much of a struggle by any means like it used to be.
Okay. I used to do something very similar to what you were sharing, but just the opposite. You said you stood in front of the mirror and you was looking at your imperfections. But in order to overcome this, what I used to do is I used to stand in front of the same mirror every day, sometimes even for 2 hours, 3 hours. Yeah. And I used to declare God's word over my life. Like that was something that really changed a lot of things in me. Like I struggle with identity, right? So I used to keep declaring, no, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm made in the image of God. God did not make a mistake in creating me. I'm cute. I'm attractive. I'm cunningly fashioned. All the verses that are, of course, cute and attractive are not in the Bible, but still, I used to take all these things and literally, I've seen people after I started saying this. There were people who actually came and told me, "You're cute." So awesome. That is so good. That from a place where I struggle with identity, I wrote my first book on identity. God just turned the tables around. Like my first book was called "Who Am I?" Everything just turned around. Like, see, you struggle with identity and your hit song was on identity. And that's the same thing that happened with me. So God is a God of turnarounds. And like you said, if there's anything that's cutting you from, accepting yourself or, living the life that God intends for you to, I think it's best to take those things off, right? It's good to fast from those things. And even recently, my brother was suggesting that I fast from certain things that affects me, even in my identity. For me, it's like, like you said, 99% you're just set free. But sometimes, it just dawns on you, oh my goodness, how do you overcome this? And